For me, it was watching the 30 for 30 broke documentary on ESPN.
Mm,
So after I saw that, I was like, wow, if these athletes that are making millions of dollars, because, playing soccer in the United States, while we are making good money, we weren't making, you retire your whole family and live in the Bahamas after you're done playing money. So it was more about, okay, I don't want to be reactive at the end of my career. And this movie or this film or documentary, however you want to call it, was kind of like a jolt into you need to be able to be proactive in this process.
welcome to Pinnacle Code, where we spotlight excellence in the culture. I'm your host, Ben Arthur. Excited to be joined by Amobi Okugo. He is a former professional soccer player, turned entrepreneur, business coach, keynote speaker, podcast host, content creator. Kind of the list goes on and on. He's a man of many talents. Uh, he kind of works on a number of ventures, but I'd say most prominently Athlete C.E.O, a platform that he started that helps professional athletes and student athletes get in control of their money and get on the track towards financial freedom. And he's also a former Forbes under 30 honoree. So you're doing things at the highest levels if you kind of get recognized on a platform like that. Amobi, thanks so much for joining the show. How's everything going?
Going well, man. Thank you so much for having the time and making time for me to be on the show. I'm thankful for you sharing space, and I'm excited to have this conversation. I know we've been talking behind the scenes for quite some time, so this is exciting.
Yeah, excited as well. Yeah, I think it's been several months that we've been trying to get this locked in, and so we're here now. And
Yeah,
to kind of get started, Amobi, just to give people kind of a feel for who you are. I guess what do people maybe need to know about your upbringing to understand how you became, former first round pick in the MLS super draft
yeah.
and kinda having that entrepreneurial bug that you had that you're now able to fully showcase now. How do we get to that point, to who you are right now?
Man, that's such a great kickoff question. I would say for me, in order to know like all the things that I'm doing and all the things that I've done, it stems from my upbringing. First generation Nigerian American, oldest of four siblings. And if you knew where both my parents came from, they came from the same village in Nigeria, uh, Igbo land in Arochukwu, Amobi village. And if you've been to Amobi village, especially recently, but if you go back in time to when they came, um, and then for them to come here on their own, very little family, and to be able to do the things that they've done and sacrifice the ways they've sacrificed for me and my siblings to have the life that we have, it's literally no excuse to not try to pursue anything and everything that we want to pursue. Because if they were able to do and overcome some of the things that they had to go through, um, we really have no excuses. So just the upbringing, the strong value on education, the strong value of, having strong morals, um, you know, being an upstanding citizen, helping others, and all that stuff culminated with my own experiences has helped me get to where I am today. And it's helping me stay disciplined in where I'm trying to go moving forward.
I'm curious, how much pressure was there to, like, maybe be, like, a doctor or a lawyer? Speaking as a fellow, uh, first generation, like, with my
Yeah.
family being from Ghana, I mean, there's kinda like that expectation almost, right? Like, your parents came to the States from Africa and, to kinda reward them almost like kinda to kinda expand on, like, the foundation they gave you. It's almost expected to get into medicine or, do all that, but instead, you kinda do, like, entrepreneurship, and obviously, you started with soccer, a very high level soccer player. So, I guess what was the family's reaction, your parents specifically, their reaction to you wanting to go that path instead of maybe the stereotypical journey that I think a lot of first generation, um, African Americans kind of deal with.
No, you bring up a great point. I think for me personally, my upbringing, my experience, just from a personal level, has been so unorthodox, but they were adamant, heavy education, Ivy League school, doctor, lawyer, engineer. Those are the options. And like you said, it's, because of the trials and tribulations that they had to go through. It's a little bit of, trying to build stability from a generational standpoint, the structure, the opportunity that those career paths provide, and just knowing the instability and how work goes. If you're a doctor, lawyer, engineer, it was more about giving yourself the best chance to succeed. That's why, immigrant parents are so big on education. And it's a little bit of, just overprotective, want to see the best options for their kids. But when I talk to my parents, my career, my experiences in life were so unorthodox. I left school when I was 14 years old to, participate in the U17 national team program. Went to UCLA on a full ride athletic scholarship. I left UCLA after my freshman year to go pro.
Mm,
So for them to expect me to do the standard pathway,
ain't
was
happening.
always it wasn't gonna happen. But I do see value in the importance of education, the importance of, structure and stability in terms of trying to do what you're trying to do. And I don't think I would have been able to do entrepreneurship how I'm doing now if I didn't have, kind of I don't want to say head start, but the footing because of my athletic career and the fact that I was able to play 12 years and, have a little breathing room as it pertains to picking my next career after playing.
So, kind of with all that said, Amobi, why entrepreneurship though? Like, what drew you towards that? Because I think traditionally when people talk about like going to school and getting degrees, going to college, which you ended up doing. It
Yeah.
sounds like after your kind of decade long career, but that's kind of like almost it's kind of different than like the entrepreneurship thing, right? Because a lot of the entrepreneurs I know and whatnot, like they were kind of like anti school, but you seem to have like really an appreciation for that because of kind of your experiences and then also just that expectation in your household. But what kind of drew you into that after post soccer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, well, I was always entrepreneurial. Even like in elementary school, I would like sell extra chicken wings to make money. I always wanted to be self-sufficient. So, I would take the free Nike gear that we got and, sell them to people when I would come back to Sacramento and visit home. So I've always been like doing different side hustles and entrepreneurial. And I think it comes down to three things for me. Self-sufficient. So I don't want to have to rely on somebody to, kind of survive. And, you know, it depending on how technical you want to go, you could say, well, you have to rely on your customers and you have to rely on your clients, but it's basically put the weight on my shoulders when it comes to being able to provide for myself, my family, and generations to come. So I love that pressure, that responsibility, and the notion of being self-sufficient. Number two is I am a big believer in uh, being a multitasker. Like I'm jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. A lot of times you only hear the first part of that quote, but the real quote that they don't tell you is the full quote: jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of none. So I've always been like played multiple sports growing up, been involved in multiple projects, multiple groups, different dynamics. So I was always comfortable hanging out or being in different areas at the same time. And I have joy in that. I take pride in that. Obviously, you can't wear yourself thin, but from the
Yeah.
standpoint of being able to, if I want to, do this marketing project, I can do this marketing project. If I want to do this social impact campaign, I want to do the social impact campaign. If I want to start a fitness club, I want to start a fitness club. And a lot of times people will say, well, you need to focus on one thing, but we have one life to live. And I don't prescribe to just doing one thing at one time. I did have to learn the hard way in terms of my approach to it. And that's why I'm in this phase of consolidation. where I'm building from like one big anchor or one big tree, and then I'm building branches of all the other things that I want to do. So that would be number two. And then the last one, number three, and it kind of ties into the first two that I mentioned, is just leverage. There's uncapped potential as it pertains to being an entrepreneur. And I'm not saying you have to quit your job and go all in on entrepreneurship. You could be an entrepreneur. So I've flirted with the concept of, all right, let me get my stable and structure from a job, but I'll be a entrepreneur on the side or find a role that allows me to, find my creative flows. But the fact that as an entrepreneur is you eat what you kill, there's uncapped potential. You can be your best friend or your own worst enemy. And based on how well you do, the sky's the limit. And when you have the leverage of, being self-sufficient, doing what you want to do, and the leverage that comes with that, uh, there's nothing uh, there's nothing better in my opinion. And I want to be able to, be able to hang out with my family,
Mm.
take days off when I can, employ others, impact others, commit and contribute to causes that I'm passionate about. And entrepreneurship, in my mind, is the way to do that, at least for now. Not to say that it might not change, and not to say that I'm against jobs, because I'm definitely not. But for me and the situation that I've been able to put myself in at this very moment and moving forward, I'll always be in entrepreneurship in some way, shape, or form.
So what Amobi, what does that anchor look like for you, right? You mentioned like you kind of have that big anchor now and kind of the branches coming off of that so that, while you are pursuing maybe multiple ventures, there's kind of like that one big thing that kind of leads to the branches. So what exactly does that look like for you in terms of like from a process standpoint? And what is that anchor right now?
No, that's a good question. I think for me, the anchor at this very moment, and me and my business partner have been discussing this, is Athlete C.E.O. And I know you touched on it earlier. We help athletes become creators through our CEO framework. And the CEO framework stands for Creator, Entrepreneur, Operator.
Mm.
And through that framework, we help athletes become enterprises. That is what we want them to become. Every athlete is an enterprise. And I am the first case study of that. So within this whole athlete CEO model, that is our anchor. I'm the brand behind that. And I'm using myself as a living testament to use as a funnel for other athletes to come. And if I'm able to build the platform or my personal brand large enough, then they continue to go down the funnel. And that's where we get into the consulting, the strategic partnerships, the business development, the content production and strategy that we ultimately want to do on a larger scale.
Okay. And so with I guess that there are a couple things there. I guess first of all, what was it that maybe happened to you personally, like with money, being a professional soccer player for so long that made you want to have a platform like Athlete CEO? Was there one kinda traumatizing experience, or was it just kinda your experiences seeing some of your teammates or other athletes you knew, just some of the stuff they went through that made you wanna do this? Like, what was that maybe pivotal juncture that made you decide that, "Okay, this is what, Imma do?"
For me, it was watching the 30 for 30 Broke documentary on ESPN.
Mm,
So after I saw that, I was like, wow, if these athletes that are making millions of dollars, because, playing soccer in the United States, while we are making good money, we weren't making, you retire your whole family and live in the Bahamas after you're done playing money. So it was more about, okay, I don't want to be reactive at the end of my career. And this movie or this film or documentary, however you want to call it, was kind of like a jolt into, you need to be able to be proactive in this process. And I've always been smart with my money. Some of my teammates would call me cheap, but I always thought about it as being frugal. But it was really for me, and it just lit a bulb in my mind where it's like, all right, how can I find athletes that are not what the documentary portrays? So as I did more research, it was like the LeBron James, the Kobe Bryant's, rest in peace, the Tom Brady's, the Serena Williams. And those are anomalies. Those are like the 1% of the 1%. So I was like, all right, I need to do more research. There's athletes that we don't even hear about that are doing very, very well because of the moves that they made during their playing career, whether it was
Mhm.
deciding to go and get their MBA, whether it was like franchising, whether it was doing externships in their off season, or just simply just being smarter with their money while they had it. What were these athletes doing, and who are these athletes that I could use as role models and roadmaps for my own career? So I originally started a Frugal Athlete, and that was just a blog highlighting prudent financial practices and smart career decisions amongst professional athletes and student athletes. Um, and there was a blog that's eventually turned into a media uh, edu- educational company, which we now kind of consolidated because, as I mentioned before, I was doing a lot of different things. And while I still want to do those many things, I need to come from a united front. So Frugal Athlete is under the umbrella of Athlete CEO, which is powered by Serve Consulting. Um, so yeah, we still talk about the essence and the importance of financial literacy amongst professional athletes and student athletes.
So how exactly do with Athlete CEO, how do you systematize, like, helping athletes kinda get in control? Is it like a classroom, university type feel? Is it kinda like, step by step? Is it kinda depending on the person, like, if they wanna consume, like, this video content here, or you bring in speakers? Like, how exactly does all that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's we go from an edutainment model.
Okay.
So we are teaching through education. We lead with education, and ideally, we're going to get you educated in an entertaining way, and then we'll have courses, we'll have workshops. We've just built out a community platform, so now you're getting a more intimate feel with the community members that are looking to learn. So not only myself as a thought leader, but you're going to get other subject matter experts that can provide information. We have different content, different courses, and that's allowed us opportunities to do speaking engagements and workshops on site with different programs. But yeah, we're leading with education, and hopefully, ultimately, that will lead them down the roadmap of, all right, maybe I want Amobi Okugo and his business services for consulting, or maybe we need your help with strategic partnerships, or maybe we need financial coaching. But ultimately, we're an education media platform that's helping athletes and individuals. Are not, we use athletes as the forefront as our Trojan horse, but financial literacy is applicable to anybody. That's who we lead with, and that's who we start with.
Yeah. I think that's a really cool model, and just generally, really cool concept that you have, with Athlete CEO, because yeah, as you said, like, athletes really are their own enterprise, right? Because they're, they're gonna have maybe their cooks or their trainers, and there's like a whole ecosystem that kind of revolves around them, and it's really important for athletes to kind of be really in control of that, because like you mentioned, like, with that, documentary, there are a lot of examples of it going really, really wrong, and the player who is at the center of it kinda getting screwed over as soon as kind of that money isn't coming in anymore. Um, so that's super dope. I guess, Amobi, what does kinda like the day-to-day of that look like? Because I think to a lot of people, like, entrepreneurship is really cool and sexy, and you're uh taking control of kind of your life in terms of work, and they see all the videos you post on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, but they don't understand maybe the work ethic and all the failures, uh and all the tough times behind the scenes. What can you say about the grind that it looks like, when the camera isn't on, or just kind of the work that goes into really sustaining something that you're living off of, right? You're not an employee anywhere. You're your own you employ yourself. So what does that kind of look like?
A lot of no's, a lot of follow up, A lot of, ooh, how much time you got? The glitz and glamour of entrepreneurship is why a lot of people may want to do it, but that's not the case at all. And I'm not saying this to discourage anyone because you are you don't know how many no's you are away from that one yes, and that one yes will change the whole trajectory of your your journey. And all it takes is one yes. So it's almost like it's tough because there's going to be times where you're like, yeah, I need a job. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't made enough money to cover, the bills for, and then you got talking about like payroll and what, but then you can have good months and you're like, this is exactly why I did it. So you have to be your biggest motivator. You got to be able to block out the noise at times. You got to have a higher purpose. You have to have your North Star because there's going to be, as I like to say, like when you're driving a car, there's going to be roadblocks and there's going to be blind spots. And you got to watch out for both. And only you know where you got to go on your destination. There's going to be times where you got to stop for gas. There's going to be times where you might have to stop on the road and ask for directions. There might be times where you have to get out and, get an oil change. There might be times where you have to, fix your tire. There might be times where you have to wipe the windshield because it's rainy and you can't really see the future, but that's the place where you're supposed to go. And that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. For me, it's the closest thing that I can get to like a game like atmosphere, like when I was playing, because every day is a new game and
Mm.
every day is a win, in retrospect, because you get to wake up. But every day's a chance to, you know, go one step forward. And that's what I love about entrepreneurship. But it's not to say that I don't want to say it's for everyone. But I think everyone should have some form of something that they do on their own for themselves, whether it's a side hustle or a full-fledged business. I'm a big proponent of that.
Why do you think everyone needs to have a side hustle? Why is that so important, especially in today's world, do you think?
Well, first and foremost, one, income is too close to zero. And in the situations that we're in right now, in light of, financial scrutiny that some people are going through, inflation, you just never know. Two, I think it's important to have something for yourself, something that inspires you, something that you're passionate about, something that you can do well, and something that you can get compensated for. And how you define compensation is different for everyone. It could be money. It could be, the impact that you have on others. It could be, changing people's, situations, whatever that looks like, and how you feel like you need to get compensated. I think that's important. But I think everyone needs to have something for themselves or something that they can, uh, not to say that they're not proud of, their day to day or their jobs,
Mm.
but something that they can, something that's theirs, you
Yeah.
know, in a world where everyone's taking from you, taking your time, just taking. What's something that you can give and give without worrying about anything on the back end?
You mentioned earlier how, kinda each day of kinda your journey in entrepreneurship, it's kinda like being in a soccer game again. I guess, in what ways has having been a athlete at the highest levels, right? How do you think that has served you just in kind of the day to day? And an ex is it almost like a second soccer career for you almost just in being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so it was funny because I came out with this like is like a mini docu series about like finding your second game because a lot of athletes struggle with in terms of like that transition or their retirement. I hate using that retirement word, but they never find their second game. And while it might not be like at the height of like a professional career, there's things that if you really dig deep that give you that same joy, that same spark, like being on the field felt like. You just might not get as much compliments or adoration from the fans, but there's always something else from a second game standpoint. For me, that's entrepreneurship. If I, take the similarities from the soccer field um, to I guess the boardroom, as we like to say. A lot of it stemmed down to being in the moment and having to think, 10 steps ahead, but in the moment. So,
Mm,
how do you respond when we're making a pitch and you can tell the reaction of who you're pitching to? They either perked up or they're looking on their phone. So, how do you grab their attention? Um, how do you build community? And that's like, how do you get the trust of your teammates, because you're going to war with them every Saturday on the game. How do you build the trust? How do you motivate your employees or your interns? Just like how do you motivate your teammates? How do you take criticism from a coach? How you take criticism from a client? How do how do you negotiate your deal? Is how I negotiated my deals with endorsement companies and contracts and all these different things. So a lot of times athletes don't realize all the transitions
mhm,
and synergies that there are from sport to corporate. But if
yeah,
you really take a deep dive and really dissect how you go about some of the things that you've done in sport, you can easily apply it to the corporate space. So even like doing post game interviews, and now the journalist is trying to get you to blame people with different questions and asking different questions for you to try to get. They're trying to get an answer out of you that you're not trying to give is the same thing. Whereas if you're pitching or you're trying to raise money, is when a VC investor is like, all right, what's your bottom line? Or how come you're doing this? Or how come you're doing that? Not to say like, obviously in sport, you're trying to avoid asking questions or start answering certain questions. But in this case, you're answering questions to the best of your abilities. So you can at least lead them to where you want them to go.
yeah,
How are you a role model in the community? How are you an ambassador for the business that you run? So there's so many tie-ins that I
yeah.
feel like a lot of people don't give themselves credit for. And that's why I highly recommend entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I think, unfortunately, as you said, there are a lot of athletes who do kinda get lost after their sport, right? But I think the ones who do make that tie-in to business, that they're some of the best business people, because every single lesson you learn throughout the game is applicable, to business. I think of a Magic Johnson. I think of what Kobe Bryant did, rest in peace, after retiring from basketball. The track he was on, right? Like, he won, like, what was it? An award for the, like, a short film he
Short
did.
film.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I think those that can really take that into business, like, there's tremendous opportunity, I think, for athletes. But kinda going into more of, like, the depths of entrepreneurship, what has maybe been the most difficult part of Athlete CEO? Like, was there a time where you thought that you had to, like, I know you talked about, like, kinda like that North Star, right? But was there ever a time where you felt like you didn't know if you could keep going? And if you did have that, what did it take to get past that?
That's a great one. I think every time I feel like, oh, okay, man, I might have to, readjust my approach, something happens where it's like, no, you're right there. So like certain things like, well, we just got a speaking engagement or we just won a grant or a client finally responded to our initial pitch and wants to move forward. It's like every time you're close to like turning around, and I keep this picture in my phone. There's like two gentlemen, and they're both like digging for like a bunch of diamonds and stuff. And there's one person like halfway, like so close, but he's turning around.
Yeah, I've
And
seen that photo,
there's
yeah.
another one where you could like put a clip on during our part. There's another one you could just see his intention. He doesn't care. He's not stopping, and it's just like, you don't know when you're gonna hit that yes, that's gonna change the trajectory of your business. And, that's kind of the mindset that I'm trying to take right now. There's gonna be good months, there's gonna be bad months. And obviously, as an entrepreneur, there's gonna be times where you might have to dip into your savings. There's gonna be times where you might have to pick up a job if it's really what you want. There's a quote that I was listening to on a podcast, um, and the guy was saying, if you're familiar with Nathan Barry, he's the founder of ConvertKit. He was saying You can do anything you want in this life, and if you don't do it, it's because you didn't want it bad enough, or you weren't willing to pay the price that it that it meant to get there. And it's not the price like in terms of monetary, but like
Yeah.
the sacrifices that were required to do it. So you really can get anything you want in this life. You can achieve anything that you want. It's just either if you don't get it, it's you didn't want it bad enough, or you weren't willing to, you know, pay the price that was required to do it.
What's the balance between, um what's the balance between, like, trying to keep like, if you're, like, continually running into a roadblock, right? Like, in your entrepreneurship journey, like, what's the balance of knowing when you need to pivot versus keep going in it doesn't mean, like, you have to give up entrepreneurship
Yeah.
entirely, right? Like, I'm just trying to think of it in terms of, like, your own journey with Athlete CEO. Like, when do you know that, like, this roadblock isn't gonna move. I just need to pivot and go about it a different way versus, like, I know that I need to keep going on
Yeah.
this path. Like, how
Yes.
do you yeah, how do you
I
figure
like
that out?
that. There's multiple different ways to look at it. I think sometimes you might be too close to it, so you're only looking at like one way. Where if you take a step back and it's like, oh wow, I didn't know there's three more doors that I could open to get past this block. But if I'm too close to the door I'm only looking at, then that's the only thing I'm looking at. So my dad always talks about there's many ways to the top of the mountain. If you look if you're if you're up close to the mountain and you're just looking up, you can only see. But if you take a step back, 50 yards, 100 yards, 200 yards, whatever, now you can kind of see the path and how I need to get up there.
That's a great
Uh,
analogy. Yeah.
when it comes to mentorship and community, I think that's very important because sometimes people have been where you are, and you might be looking at it from from a simple way, and someone that's done it before can give you some insight into uh, how maybe to approach it, how maybe not to approach it. Obviously, sometimes you got to figure it out on your own with their help, because when they were going through it, it's a different time versus when you were going through it. But that ability and that capability to bounce ideas or follow in their footsteps, it's a game changer. Also to learn from their mistakes. So if you see someone like, it's just like I like to use analogies and acronyms. If you see someone that's like I'm driving on the road and you see them 100 yards and they're going traffic, it's like all right, I'm going to take the exit, take the back roads, and get off on the other way. So
Mm.
always trying to figure out from the mentorship standpoint, looking ahead at trends can help you as well. And then I think sometimes it's just a gut feeling. Sometimes it's like you got to iterate and evolve. Sometimes you just need to, you know, buckle up your waistband
Mm.
and drive through. Um, yeah, I would say like so we started it was a frugal athlete and it just started off as a blog. Then we iterated. Then we delegated and downsized. And then now we're at Athlete CEO. And who's to say Athlete CEO is the end all be all. So you
Yeah.
always gotta continue to move forward and ultimately figure out what's going on, but also take account of what's working, what's not working, double down on what's good, strengthen your weaknesses, all that and more, and kind of go from there.
So with Athlete CEO, Amobi, what does kind of having a team look like for you, right? Because obviously you're not doing everything yourself.
Yep.
I think I remember hearing you said you had a partner. Um, like how are you able to outsource everything, right? Because you have a big mission, right? But we don't do things on our own. So what does that delineation, having a team, what does that look like in regards to your mission?
Yeah, that's my quote, man. Delegate to elevate. So for me, my business partner, Adrian Camargo, so he came on uh, around 2020 when it was just a frugal athlete. And since then, he was helping me with frugal athlete. We had a lot of synergy. He was doing a great job. And we ended up starting Serve Consulting as co-founders. And then because of like all the overlap and like kind of the confusion in terms of what everything I was doing, we really sat down and was like, all right, how can we just maximize this opportunity that we have before we kind of get what's the word that I'm looking for? How we kind of get uh diluted because now
Mhm.
there's a lot of influx of people in the sports business content type space. So that's when we consolidated for Athlete. We had been talking about this Athlete CEO for quite some time on our socials. It was gaining a lot of traction. So we were like, all right, this is what we're going to do. Athlete CEO is our education media side of how we're going to get people to into our funnel, into our community, into our services. And Serve Consulting is the business.
Umbrella.
Yeah,
Yeah.
umbrella, Afro Athlete is a pillar of how we talk
Mm.
about stuff from an athlete CEO angle. Um, yeah, so now we have like a whole conveyor belt of where we take a customer on their journey or a member or a supporter, and based on how far they want to go, they either stay at Athlete CEO with our content, they go to Serve Consulting for our services, they get us on a retainer, whatever that looks like. So
Mm.
it took some time because before it wasn't that. It was just the frugal athlete, and I was too close to the door, and I had to take a step back and it was like, oh wow, I got this door open. I
Mm.
got this door. This door has a doorbell that I need to ring. So understanding like I was too close and too in it and took a step back to delegate and got other people's opinions, like an Adrian or the interns that we worked with or the mentors that I have. And that allowed us to that allowed us to that allowed us to get better in how we go about our plan of attack.
So it sounds like you have a great, um, co-pilot, so to speak, in Adrian, who you've spoken about. How do people like who kind of want to do what you've done, right? Like they have this, big dream, like something they want to create, but they don't want to do it by themselves, or it's kind of too much to do on their own. How do you identify the right partner? Would you say?
That's a great question. I would say read Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman. This is the process. First and foremost, you got to figure out if you're a visionary or you're an integrator, because when it comes to partnerships, that's the best way to build a ship that has a lot of rocket fuel for um, potential to uplift. So for me, I'm more visionary, forward facing, able to get in front of people, get connect with different people. That's just my personality. Adrian, integrator, systems and processes, operations, back office, just doesn't care who gets the credit. He just wants to get the job done. So we work well together in that aspect. Very few people have the capabilities to be visionary and integrator. Some of it you have to be by force if you don't have a business partner. So early on, I was visionary and integrator. But
Mhm.
as I continue to develop and understand what I like to do, I realize I fall into more visionary role. um, Adrian's more integrator role. So if you think about, like, for example, LeBron James, Maverick Carter, LeBron James, visionary, Maverick Carter, integrator. If
Yeah.
you think about Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs, visionary, Steve Wozniak, integrator. If you think about Bill Gates, Paul Allen, rest in peace. Bill Gates, visionary and integrator, to be fair, but
Yeah.
then Paul Allen, integrator.
Mhm.
So who is your opposite in
Mhm.
when you're looking to build a business? How you go about that? I found Adrian by making a cold uh, outreach on my Instagram stories. Fortunately, he was in the sports business space already and had been following me, and he just responded. We ended up getting lunch. I gave him like a project to work on, hit it out the park, and I was like, "Yeah, we need to, we need to make this like a working relationship." And then over time, we built a friendship. Then we built the partnership. But yeah, that's big. Now I would say find out first and foremost, do you fall in line between, are you a visionary? Are you an integrator? So then once you find that out, now you can look for the opposite. How you go about that? There's many ways. You can go to meetups. You can go to incubator groups. You can go on LinkedIn, Angel List, Y Combinator. There's Discord groups, Slack groups.
Yeah.
You just got to be proactive. It's like if you're trying to date, you can't date from your room. You got to be outside, or you got to be online, or however the people date these days. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a lot of game there. That's good stuff. Um, Moby, I was looking at your YouTube page and,
It needs work.
no, yeah, I mean, it's no, it's a solid page, but, the reason I bring that up because your headline video, at one point in the video, you kinda talk about, like, what you wanna be or what you wanna be known for long term, and you say you wanna be that deal maker, you wanna be that guy who brings people together to help them reach the pinnacle of their potential, which first of all, that kind of meshes with my show, first
Yes,
of all.
sir. Yep.
But secondly, why is like pinnacle like of their potential like why is that your mission?
I just feel like people can give more, can do more, and we shortchange ourselves. I feel like whether it's imposter syndrome, whether it's insecurities, whether it's just the lack of like true discipline, um, we the human mind, the human body, we can endure so much. And I hate to use the word endure in this situation because it's not about what you go through; it's about what you grow through. Um,
Mm, that's a bar.
it's like we're capable of doing a lot if we put our mind to it, if we find the right community that can support us. And I was fortunate at a very young age to not only have parents that sacrificed, but a village of people, mentors, coaches, friends, uh, you know, older folk that were all looking out for me in the sense of, yo, if you're really trying to make it to the next level, this is what you're going to have to do. Or if you're looking to be better in school, like my buddies, we would be in elementary school, and right after school, because we're in the extended program, we would all help each other. We do our homework from 3 to 4, and then the rest of the time we
Mhm,
play basketball, play soccer, or play video games. Burn CDs and listen to radio. But we knew from 3 to 4 because our parents worked and they weren't going to pick us up until the after school program was later. Like, yo, let's help each other. We're going to do this homework. We're going to study for our things. Like that iron sharpens iron.
mm,
That's what we're all about. And there's this big trend now. People are talking about communities in, communities back. If you're not building a community, you don't have anything. Humans, that's what makes humans humans, community, whether it's a business group or religion or fitness gym. At the end of the day, it's all about community. And I want to be that broker or that liaison or that conduit or that facilitator to help people through community, through relationships, through motivation, through insights, through resources to help them reach their highest level. And selfishly, it's a play on my last name, Okugo, okay, you go. So, okay, you go, reach your highest level. And if I can
mm.
be someone that helps you do that, that's what it's all about.
That's dope. Yeah, it's really cool that, like, kind of this mission that you've taken on, like, fits perfectly with your name.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I saw that, like, branded on, like, a lot of your pages, like, "Okay, you go," like, to finish, like, your bio and description.
Yeah.
That's really dope. Amobi, thank you so much for your time. I guess where can people, go to learn more about you, to learn more about Athlete CEO, online or on social media?
No, thank you for taking the time to, share Pinnacle Code with me, and I'm glad I was able to tell my story. You asked great questions, man. It's no wonder why you're in the space that you're in. It makes sense.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
But to find me, Amobi says on all platforms: Instagram, TikTok, X, Amobi Okugo on LinkedIn, website www.amobiakugo.com, Athlete CEO on Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube, www.athleteceo.me. And yeah, we got a newsletter. We got a whole bunch of different things. I'm everywhere.
Okay.
So, and I always try to make the commitment. I will respond within 72 hours, 48, 72 hours when it comes to if you reach out via email or on social platform.
Okay. Awesome, and everyone listening, be sure to tap in with him. All that info will be in the description, or the show notes. So be sure to check that out. And last one for you, Amobi. I ask all my guests this at the end, but what does Black success mean to you?
Ooh, that's a good one. Black success, what does that mean to me? That means providing clarity and a roadmap for other Black individuals to follow in your footsteps. So it doesn't count as success if you're not helping people along the way. So, uh, send that elevator down so that they can get up to that floor with you as well.
Love it. Awesome. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Pinnacle Code. Appreciate all of you as always for all the support, for rocking with me when you don't really have to. So you're probably listening to the show on YouTube, so you could subscribe there. But the show is on Spotify as well, and soon to be on Apple Podcasts. And then in terms of social clips and whatnot, most active on YouTube Shorts and Instagram and TikTok as well. But until next week, I'll see you guys soon. Thank you, Amobi. Appreciate you.
Now, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. And we'll be talking next week, I guess.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate